when the paramedics come, they said to me, "Where do you want me to take her?" And I was terror-struck, and I thought the nearest hospital. Why would you ask me a question like that? But once Lesley was put into that hospital, I know why he asked me, you know what I mean? And there was a hospital probably about another 20, 25 or might be 15 k's from our place that had a U-Butte stroke facility in. But when you're not familiar with stroke and stroke survivors, you don't know of these things.
Just to understand what's actually going on with you and what treatment you need to know that you need to go and see someone immediately. You need to accept what's going on, to understand what's being done for you.
And I said, "Oh, there's Lesley over there," and she went over and sat beside Lesley, and I just went out the room, and I thought, no, I'll just leave her, because I thought, you know, she's here to assess Lesley, and I didn't want to be helping Lesley. I just wanted her to take Lesley as she was. And then she called me back into the room and said, "This woman should be in QE2 hospital." And I said, "I've been trying to get her in there from the start." I said, "I'll carry her up there."
Yes, we'll do.
The next day our doctor rang and said, "Get Lesley's bag packed," and they took her in there and they said she should have come here in the first place. I nearly burst out crying.
I didn't ask Kerr questions. I really, at that stage, didn't think I was going to be ever requiring it. I was determined to be as independent as I could, and so a lot of those questions I could probably didn't need to research. I think it was probably the main questions about the rehab, the stroke side of things, or just what implications were there that they could profess.
Beyond the fact that my speech was getting worse and worse, and my ability to actually get the words and say what I wanted to say was getting harder, my ability to concentrate and process information, I was relying on my family. Without them, it would have been very difficult. Just being able to evaluate all the information that's coming at you after you've had a stroke is quite enormous. And so, yeah, if you're having problems concentrating, yeah, it makes it very challenging to work out all that sort of information that's coming.
If you've had a stroke, get as much support, ask as many questions. Now, that's not necessarily going to be the person who's had the stroke. They may not be able to, but the family member, the carer, the main person, carer. Get out there and ask and ask and ask until you're satisfied.
Yeah, I had no idea what a stroke was or how to recognise it. I was completely oblivious to the signs and symptoms. So I think it's important that we all understand what stroke is, and if we recognise it coming on, we can get to hospital, quickly get it treated, because that's going to help people recover. The faster they get to the hospital, the better their chances of recovery are.
I was having a GP visit every month post-stroke, and one of the things, I had my phone on me and I looked and I thought, I wonder if anyone else has had a stroke. And so I looked up stroke survivor stories. I just Googled stroke survivor stories, and National Stroke Foundation stroke survivor stories came out. And I started to look into it. And then I called a lady at the Stroke Foundation and got more information sent in the mail. And it's those packets of information were priceless. And from that moment on, I guess I've learned to rely on information from the Stroke Foundation. Living in rural Queensland, you can go to psychologists or your GP and try to find information through them, but I really wanted stroke-specific information, and that's where I went. But whenever you experience something, you want to know what outcomes are positive and other people, how they've dealt with things. And I think it's really important to know that you're part of a group of a lot of survivors. It's not just you that's had a stroke. And the answers that would come of other people, like, I have a fear of having another stroke, and I also had a long recovery, but I'm better now. All that information came through the Stroke Foundation and through Facebook. Facebook was a real powerful tool. Joined Facebook, found friends who had strokes, and you could chat, personally together through personal experience.